All right. Good morning. How are you all doing? Karibuni sana. Hope you're all well. This beautiful fourth day of March, of April rather, 2025. Beautiful but very chilly morning here in Nairobi, Kenya. But we're really glad that you could join us. Karibuni sana. This wonderful day. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So like we always say, Afriforex is not a one-man show. So we do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. Of course, the team will be getting back to you, but I will be looking at the questions and requests, comments, in the chat box, but towards the very tail end of this session. But you don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can end up engaging us even as the webinar or the session does continue progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into business. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list, and you can see the watch list right there. So this fourth day of April, just one change on the watch list from what we had yesterday. You can see that gold has gone to the sell side of things. So we'll see how things end up going, but everything else does end up remaining more or less the same. So we can start off by looking at a couple of screenshots that we did get, because in any case, we're going to be doing the reviews as we look at what we could be expecting today. So we'll start off with this screenshot from Alvin. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see that you got a handful of trades yesterday. So it seems like you got, I think these were sales coming down, a lot of money management that was going on. Also seems that you attempted maybe some couple of buys here and there. But more, all in all, I can see that at least you did get some sales high up there. Seems like you are targeting down within this particular region right here, where we do have some set of buyers who are sitting there on the 5-minute time frame. So some sort of scalp trades that are going on, but it seems like you did come up with some money on that. So shout out to you for that, Alvin, and of course, keep up the good work. So we also did get some screenshots from Annette. So shout out to you, Annette. Good to see that you're still in the game. So this is also the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see that you got some sells or a sell somewhere within here. And I can see that there was some attempts here, or one attempt that was unsuccessful, which is okay, it happens. Then at least you did end up getting a second attempt, which did end up paying off. And I can see that your stop loss already beneath your point of entry, and I can see that you're targeting down here, but I can see that you also have some SNRs and some analysis going on there. So potential areas that you're also waiting for the market to possibly end up coming into. So shout out to you for that, Annette. So last but not least, also from you, Annette, this is on the euro against the Japanese yen. So I can see that you got a buy here, price came up, tapped back within this region right here. Definitely an SNR within there. Definitely must have been happy about closing the trade within there, because you can see that the market did end up coming down. So shout out to you for that as well, Annette. So shout out to Annette and Alvin. You guys did well on the charts yesterday. So guys, remember, if you do get in any trades, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. I mean, us guys are more or less a resource that you can end up using. We'll give you the much needed advice and also the shout out. We see things are good, and also does end up motivating, other people to also end up pushing in terms of their trading. So feel free to send in your screenshots. Our contact details are right there on the video and in the video description. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp. And also feel free to reach out to us with the same contact details, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you if you do require more help in terms of your trading. So we're gonna jump straight into matters today. So you can see the watch list right there. This is what it's gonna be looking like. So on the fundamental front, there's gonna be a lot that's gonna be going on today. Remember, today being the first Friday of the month, we do have the non-farm payroll. So already the markets have already been moving a lot. This week, there's been a lot that's going on with the tariffs and everything. And I mean, even when you look at the charts today, you will see that there's been a lot of movement, even during the Asian session. So we'll be seeing what ends up happening. There's still more yet to come. So watch out for the non-farm payroll later on today at 3:30 time. And I guess that's pretty much going to be the highlight for today. So we'll see how the markets end up moving. Already there's been a couple of fundamentals that have already come out, but at least we've already factored this into our analysis for today. So we're going to be starting off with the USD pairs, and we're going to mix and match them up with the USD with everything on the buy side. Then we'll move on to the AUD, then do the same with the NZD, then finish off with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar, which seems like it was quite a popular pair yesterday. Looking at the trades from Alvin and Annette. So yesterday we were watching out for buying opportunities, and you can't see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting the pullback to come in. Unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come in. But there were also these two other areas that we had where potentially we're expecting maybe if the big boys didn't need that price, then we would have been ready for it. So you can't see that the market bounced off here, just came shy of this region. This was during the London market open at around 10, and you can see that the market continued to rally up. So the major pullback seems to be coming in right now. So during the US session, so the London session price went up, the US session price came down. The Asian session, you can see that price is just holding within here. So hopefully we'll wait and see if the London big boys are going to be coming back in like they did yesterday, and they're going to be pushing the market up. So it's either one of two things. Either price could come back in within this zone right here. And if it does, this is a good area to look for the buys, considering the fact that the price going up, there was a major push of the buyers off this region right here. So that could happen. Again, alternatively, what could happen is, at least if price gets to the upside of this region, for those of you that want to be a bit more conservative, then possibly you could look for the trades here. But if you really want to be aggressive, I mean, there's a region right here where you can't see that the market has actually formed some sort of support region. Potentially on the smaller time frame, you could also look for trades there, but you also need to be very careful about how you go about it, because the market could easily spike within this region right here. You could easily get stopped out even as price comes back in, within this particular region right here. So just make sure that you also do factor that in even as you look for trades within there, and also watch out for the red scenario. If the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately, the Great British Pound against the US dollar falls off our watch list. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions Mitch had pointed out, and also what we're expecting. Unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come in. I guess the USDs are showing a lot of weakness across the board. So price just kept coming down. The pullbacks were very shallow. There was only one proper pullback that maybe could have been read during the US session back within this region here, but you can't see that price has continued to rally down during the Asian session. It's back in, within this particular area here. So we will be waiting to see if we can get another pullback, hopefully back within that semi-aggressive conservative region, somewhere within this particular area right here. Hopefully during the London session, the market could actually bounce off that region at the bottom. And hopefully during the US session, if we could find the market back within here, hopefully at around 4:30, then potentially we could get some very, very good selling opportunities off that region to come to the downside. So watch out for that. Alternatively, if the market breaks to the downside of this region, pulls back in within this zone, then that's the next best sell. But right now, based on the fact that we're just holding above a region of support, might not be such a good idea to look for the selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're also watching out for sells. So you can't see the three areas which had pointed out. So price was here in the morning, wanted to either see the pullbacks coming in back within these two areas right here, or maybe the market breaking and coming back in within this region, which unfortunately did not. So this tells you that there was a lot of weakness across the board on the USDs. You can see that many of them were not really giving major pullbacks. And I mean, even for the rest of the USDs that we end up looking at, you will see that was the same scenario. So let's see today what happens. There was a pullback that came in during the US session, then the market came down. You can see that during the Asian session, price is pretty much within this region. So this one is more or less similar to the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So at least if we could get price coming back in within here, you can generally see that sellers are somewhere within this particular region. So we want to be getting the sales as close as possible within there. If we can't get that, then we'll have to wait and see if we can get a breach to the downside. But looking for sales when price is down within here, might not be a good idea because we're more or less within a region of support. The market could easily bounce off this region. You can already see that buyers are starting to come in. Buyers are generally within this region, so they could push the market to the upside. But also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but considering the fact that we have the non-farm payroll today, anything is possible. So just keep that option open as well. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sales as well. So similar situation with the rest of the USDs. So price was here. We're expecting the pullback. That didn't happen. You can see that the market continued to rally down. The pullbacks were quite shallow. The only pullback that you can visually see and read is this one that came in during the US session. And you can see that the market came down, tapped within that region. It's more or less holding within this particular area here. And it seems to be almost back within a region of resistance. So we just need to see the market potentially come back up within this area here, see what type of reaction we get of the sellers within there. And I think that could potentially give us a very good selling opportunity to come back down and challenge this particular region here. So make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. There's a possibility, if the market does end up needing a much better price, or the big boys rather, you could find some spikes, maybe during the non-farm payroll. You could easily find the market tapping back within here before we get some proper selling opportunities. But remember that in case the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So let's see what happens. This one doesn't look too bad. At least the pullback is coming in. The buyers seem to be slowing down. We just need to see what happens when the market taps within here. Definitely, we see a sign of the big boy sellers coming back into the market, then at least we can try and attempt some selling opportunities at that point in time. So last but not least, for the USDs, we have the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. The pullback, unfortunately, couldn't come back in within this region. You can see that the market went up, came down, bounced off this area. And you can see that the market really went to the upside quite aggressively. So something similar to what we've seen on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So the market just continued rallying up all through the London session. The pullback came in during the US session. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So let's see if the market can give us some sort of a pullback to come back in somewhere as close as possible within here. So it's pretty much similar to the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So make sure that you also watch out for correlation. If you see price coming back in, especially when it's back within here, also have a look at GBP USD as well. And you potentially could even end up getting both of them at the same time. So let's see what happens. Maybe during the London session, we could be on the pullback, maybe at around 3, 4, 4:30, during the US sessions. Price could be back within this area right here, and we could get a very, very good buying opportunity at that point in time. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. You could easily find some spikes. There are generally still some areas down within here that the market could potentially need. So you could find that when the market comes back in within this region, it might actually give a massive probe, maybe tap back in within this region. But at least if price comes back and holds to the upside of this region, then at least at that point in time, you could actually look for some buying opportunities. So watch out for that. Watch out for the red SNR. Price can also come back there. Today we have the non-farm payroll. It's very possible price can come back in within that region. So that's pretty much it for the USDs. So we're going to move on to the next set of currency pairs, which are the Australian dollar pairs. We're not going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. The AUDs have really moved. It's like the big boys today morning woke up to just, hammering the AUDs. A lot of weakness is really showing across the board, and the Asian big boys have really, really pushed the AUDs for weakness. So even before we jump into today, you can't see what we're watching out for yesterday. So these are the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere within this particular region. Wasn't a good area to look for the buys, and you clearly can't see where there were sellers there. And you can see that the market did actually pull back in. There was no sign of buyers within here. Price came all the way back down till within this region right here. And you can see that during the Asian session, during the US session rather, the market bounced off here, started to push to the upside, but it was only during the Asian session that the market really picked up a lot of momentum to push to the upside. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So you can take note of them. This region at the top seems like a region that's hanging in the middle of nowhere. But if you look at the story on the bigger time frame, you will realize that it's actually an area of interest. I think we're going up to challenge some daily levels from back in the day. So you can't see that 2020 we breached that high. So back around 2015 or thereabout, we're going to challenge that high. So that's the reason why we have mapped out that region. So I guess that's going to be the next big area that we're going to be watching out for. But we'll be waiting to see what happens on the pullback. Hopefully the market comes back in within this region here. We get a nice sign for us to look for the buying opportunities within this area. But generally, even when the market starts to come back in within here, if you get the buy here, just make sure that you also watch out for the recent high, which is somewhere within here. But generally, we should be expecting maybe price to tap back in within that region. So let's wait and see what happens. The pullback doesn't have to come back in within here, but this is generally an area of interest. Considering the fact that the market broke above here quite aggressively, we should be expecting maybe some sort of a retest to come back in within this particular region right here. And if that ends up being the case, then at least we'll try to see whether we could time some buying opportunities there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom, the red SNR. There's also a possibility price can come back in within there. The markets have been quite uncertain this week, especially with the tariffs and everything that's been going on. A lot of weakness showing on the AUDs and the NZDs, strength on the CHF. That points out to potentially we could be in a fear-based market to some extent. And I guess it's everything to do with what Trump is trying to do. It's definitely affecting the economies of the world. So moving on into the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could get some sells. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting a breach to the downside and a pullback. Consider the market just broke and sat beneath this region. And after that, it just started its move to the downside. And you can't see that it was only during the Asian session that the market really picked up a lot of momentum, just like we've seen on the other AUD. So for this one, the three areas we will be watching out for are these three regions right here. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. These are the three areas we will be watching out for, but definitely a pullback is needed on the AUDs. So just make sure that you also trade them with caution. A lot of people are definitely jumping in on sales right now, and there's a very high probability they will be getting stopped out. So we will be waiting to see if we can get a proper pullback, and if the pullback doesn't come in, then I guess for us there will be no trade. But at least if we could get a pullback coming back in, at least somewhere within this region right here, stop out quite a number of late sellers, then at least we could get some proper selling opportunities on this one. Alternatively, if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, then if we get a proper pullback that we can rig back within this region, then at that point in time, we could look for some selling opportunities. But caution is advised on the AUDs, and I will point that out again. And the reason being, if you look at this one, the market has actually gone beneath. If you look at even the monthly, let me even just go to the monthly because it's something we realized even just looking at with the team. You can see that the AUD against the Swiss franc, the last time price was here, you can see the massive reaction that was here. And this was back during the COVID times. So the market is actually literally trying to attempt to break this region to the downside. We've never been that low before. So definitely some buyers are within here. They could push back. They pushed back before. But generally, we break free of that region to the downside, then on the pullback, we could definitely get some good selling opportunities. But considering the fact that we're within a major support, you could easily find that price can even come back in all the way till within that region at the top. So just make sure that you also have that in mind. But I will point out again, caution is advised on the AUDs. There could be some good opportunities, but make sure that you don't fumble the ball. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out. So this one seems to have worked out pretty well. So price was here. We're expecting the pullback to come back in within here. Price came back in. You can see that the buyers did actually slow down within here. The only thing is that the sellers didn't quite show up. The market just started to the downside. And you can see that similar situation with the rest of the AUDs. During the Asian session, that's when the market really picked up a lot of momentum to the downside. So for this one, for today, these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully we will be getting a pullback. Already you can see that the bars are already starting to push back, which is good. So let us hope that during the London session, we could get the market pulling back in somewhere as close as possible within this region here. And if that ends up being the case, I think we could get some very good selling opportunities somewhere within this particular region here. But also for this one, if you look at it on the bigger time frame, you will also realize that we're more or less back, within a region of support. You can see that the market has actually bounced off here. Even in the past, you can see 2015 price was there, it broke to the downside. Then after that, came back in, gave some retest. So I guess we're more or less within also major SNR, which is visible on the bigger time frame. So also be careful in terms of looking for the buys. For the sells down within here. But at least if the market does break beneath this region to the downside and we get a nice strong breach and the big sellers seem to show up and the pullback comes in, then at that point in time, you could look for your selling opportunities. So make sure that you do watch out for that. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, we're also watching out for sales. You can see the 3 areas Mitch had pointed out, and there was also this additional level here, as well as some illustrations of what to expect. So price was here. We're expecting price to pull back in within that region. It was an area of interest, and you can see that price just tapped within there. And during the US session, the market started its move to the downside, which gave a very good sell. And of course, today during the Asian session, similar situation with the rest of the AUDs. You can see that this one also came down quite aggressively. So for this one, we will be waiting to see what happens if we can get some sort of a pullback coming in within those 3 areas right there. So can take note of that. Also for this one, we're more or less within a region where we do have buyers, and we're just going to be waiting to see if we could get at least some pullback coming in somewhere within this particular region or somewhere as close as possible within this area, or generally a pullback that we can get. It doesn't have to come back all the way till within this region, but at least if we get a pullback, we can read, and at least we do see signs that the buyers are slowing down and the sellers are now starting to come back in, at least somewhere as close as possible within here. Then at least we could try and possibly see if we could get some sales. Alternatively, just like we've discussed with the rest of them, we need to see the breach, then the market coming back in within this region before we actually end up looking for some selling opportunities. So let's be a bit patient. Let's see what happens. The pullback will come in, that's for sure. The markets can't move down forever. So you just need to be a bit patient, and trust me, the pullback will come in. And even if it doesn't come in today, it will definitely come in even if it's on Monday. But let's just hope that it does happen today. So last but not least, for the AUDs, we have the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. This one seems similar to the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. You can see some good correlation. So the market was somewhere within here in the morning. We're expecting the pullback to come in. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but we did get the market going to the upside. Then it came back in within this particular region during the US session. The market struggled to pick up. Then it was only during the Asian session that the market really picked up a lot of steam to the upside. So for this one, we're also still going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the 3 areas that we're going to be watching out for today. The levels are wider, and I think you will see and you realize that even on the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar, but it's purely based on the story of price. So since the move going to the upside was quite aggressive, the pullback should also be quite aggressive coming down. So we'll be expecting, hopefully, to get the market to calm down somewhere within this particular region here. And at least if we do get that, then at least we could get some very good buys off here to target somewhere within there, but also watch out for this region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but considering the fact that the markets have gone up high, you never know. Maybe during the non-farm payroll, the market could also come down all the way back to within here for us to get another good buying opportunity. So just make sure you watch out for that. There's a major SNR high up within this region right here. I think it's like a daily level or something, because also for this one, price has actually gone high up within a region where it was a couple of years back. You can see that the last time price was here was back during the COVID days. This was about 2020. So you could find that there's a daily level somewhere within here. And of course, if we break that region and we continue moving up higher, there are definitely quite a number of areas that the market could be going up to. But at least there's still more range to the upside. So there's still space. We just need to get a proper pullback and get a proper entry. And hopefully we could end up enjoying the ride going up, even as the big boys go to challenge those levels higher up. So hopefully we've taken note of that and everything we've discussed on the AUDs. So we're pretty much done with the AUD pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the NZD pairs and mix and match them up. So the NZD with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning price was here, we're expecting the pullback to come in, maybe get a bounce off this region right here. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you can see that the market came all the way back down till within here. And you can see that the big move going up had actually started off here the previous day. So even just going back to the euro against the Australian dollar, when I pointed out that it's possible for price to come back in within the region where the buyer started, it's very possible also to find the pullbacks on this one also coming back down to within here before the market goes up. So similar situation with what happened yesterday. So the market came down during the US session. There was a bit of a struggle, push to the upside. Then you can see that the market really took off to the upside, like the space shuttle. So this one, the NZDs and the AUDs seem to have a lot of correlation going on. But like I pointed out, potentially it could be signs that we're in a fear-based market. When you see the AUD and the NZD really weak and the Swiss franc extremely strong and the Canadian dollar, then there's definitely something up. So for this one, these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out, pretty much the same areas. I know that the market has broken this region to the upside, but like we always keep on pointing out, you always need to wait for the pullback to come in because the market can easily probe within this region right here. And this could be a massive probe and you still could find price coming back, all the way down to within this region here before the market actually gives us a good buying opportunity. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. Of course, we could get the slowdown happening within here. And I mean, this should be the next best area that you should be watching out for. So if we get the market slowing down within this region, definitely you could get the buy, but just make sure that you watch out for the highest part, which is going to be somewhere within this particular region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. So hopefully you've taken note of that. Let's see what happens. Maybe and hopefully we do get some good opportunities, but the NZDs and the AUDs, caution is advised. They've really moved a lot. Unless we get some proper pullbacks, we can't read. I mean, I would best advise you possibly don't end up really going too hard on them. And in any case, today being a Friday, you don't really want to lose the gains that you've made the whole week. So also make sure that you also watch out for your risk, be a bit more picky. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get sells. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come in. You can see that the market just kept coming down very slowly, then broke this region to the downside, held beneath it, like barely, then continued to rally down. And only during the Asian session, you can see how aggressively, the big boys in Asia have really pushed this one down. So for this one, we'll also be waiting to see if we can get a pullback coming in. This one is, I think, kind of similar to the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So we're back down within a region of support on this one. And I think if we do go up to the monthly, you'll end up realizing that we are actually at the lowest we've ever been. You can't see that there's not even data past 2004, but you can see that the market has actually been coming down for the longest time. And right now we're more or less at the low. So potentially be very careful in terms of how you go about it down within there. At least if we get the market breaking, beneath this region to the downside, we could see further movement, but definitely a pullback will definitely be needed regardless. So we'll be waiting to see whether we could get something like that, or potentially during the Asian session, if we could get the market maybe rallying up, back within this region right here, I think we could potentially get some very, very good selling opportunities, maybe during the US session. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top, the place where the sellers started their move coming down. Price can still come back in within that region. You could find maybe some sort of a spike, coming back in within there, maybe during the non-farm payroll. And if you're sniper enough, you could actually get some selling opportunities within there. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get sells. So you can see the three areas that had been pointed out. Price was here. We're expecting the pullback to come in. The pullback came in nice and easy, but unfortunately, there wasn't a big sign of the sellers. The market just stopped here and then just started to turn around very slowly. It was only during the Asian session that the market and the big boys really showed up, and you can see that they really pushed the market to the downside. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for this one. At least we can see that there's already been a probe within this particular region. In the morning when we're looking at the charts with the team, the market was just coming down. We pointed out that there was a region right here. Even the market hadn't touched that region just yet, but you can see that the market has just stopped there. And you can see some sign of buyers, who are starting to come in. So I guess the support region down here is coming into play, which is good. So we'll be hoping we could get price coming back, within this particular region or somewhere as close as possible within here for us to look for the sells. So let's see what happens on this one. But remember that you don't really want to be looking for sells when the market is just holding above this support region. So unless the market breaks to the downside, we get the pullback or it comes back in, then at least we could keep up with the selling opportunities. So just make sure that you factor that in. And also watch out for the red SNR at the top. Price could also come back in within there. And I think we can also end up looking at the daily just to see what's going on this one. So you can see that price is actually back, within a support region. So we're back within here. Caution is definitely advised. You can see that the market went up. This was back in March 2023. Price went up, then came down. You can see that it tapped back within here sometime last year in August. And you can see that there was still a reaction by the buyers. So we're back within this region. Can't quite tell what the buyers could be up to, but at least that shouldn't really scare us too much. All we know is that at least if we get the pullback coming up back within this region or somewhere within there, if we get the sales, definitely this is a region where we should be watching out to really make sure that we're managing our trades. And if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, then we can't keep up with the selling opportunities. And I mean, there's a lot of range to the downside. You can even see on the monthly, if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, we have a lot of room to move to the downside. So let's just wait and see what does end up happening. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells as well. So you can't see what the game plan was. And in the morning price was here. It was either price to break beneath this region to the downside or maybe come back all the way to within here. So you can't see that during the London session from 10, price came down, bounced off there. The whole of the London session price was on its pullback, coming back in within here. Then during the US session, you can see that's when the market did actually start to make a move. There was this sign of the big sellers showing up. The market pulled back in one last time within there, and that's when the journey coming down did officially begin. So for this one, moving into today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we could get some sells. You can see that the big boys during the Asian session, they added more fuel to the fire. And you can see that the market did continue to rally down quite aggressively, something similar to what we've seen with the rest of the NZDs and the AUDs. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. The market has found a region of support. Not really a good time to look for the selling opportunities. I can guarantee you 95% of the hundreds of millions of traders across the globe are definitely looking for sales now, but they're not quite sure what they're signing up for. So just wait and see if you could get a pullback coming in. At least if we get a pullback coming in within here, then at least we could get some selling opportunities, but also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but price can come back in within there. Alternatively, we do get the market breaking beneath this region to the downside, then at least we could get some selling opportunities off this area to come to the downside. But for right now, just be a bit patient, wait and see what happens. You could set an alert here. And also remember, if you see the pullback happening on one of them, also have a look at the rest because correlation is definitely in play. You can see that all the charts definitely seem to be moving together. Like for the NZDs are moving together, the AUDs are moving together. Even the USDs, to some extent, are also moving together. So if you see a pullback on one, make sure you have a look at the others. If you see one starting to move, also have a look at the others. That will give you the confidence that you need to know that the big boys are back, so that even when you're taking your trade, you'll have that ease of mind and comfort of mind just to know that at least you're in with the big boys. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday and today, looking for buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out, and they look quite small considering the fact that the market has really taken off to the upside quite aggressively. So these are the three areas Mitch had pointed out. There was also this region that he had pointed out that maybe you could also find that the market could come back in within this region, and you could find or take some buying opportunities within there. So in the morning, price was here. Unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come in all the way to within this region. Consider there was a lot of a struggle within this region right here and much later on, but generally you can see that the buyers were really holding within this region. The market started its push to the upside. And of course, during the Asian session, just like we've seen with the rest of the NZDs, the market has really pushed up to the upside. So for this one, the market is high up within a region of resistance. The sellers are starting to come in, which is good. So we will be waiting to see if we could get the market pulling back back in within at least this region right here. So these are the three areas that we're going to be keeping an eye out for. So I'll even set an alert here and just be patient to try see if we could get the pullback coming in somewhere as close as possible. If the sellers start to get faded, within this region and the buyers start to show up, definitely we'll try to see whether we could get some buying opportunities within this particular region right here to push to the upside. So hopefully we get that pullback. If the market breaks above this region to the upside, then I guess we'll just have to wait and see if we could get that pullback coming back within this particular region here. If the market breaks to the upside, lots of breakout traders are going to be attempting buys. You could make it out alive. You couldn't. You might not. But I would best advise you always wait for the pullbacks. This move going up is extremely risky, but at least if the pullback comes in, at least this one will be much, much better. So, I mean, depending on your risk, I know some of you are real cowboys on the charts and you have a stomach for losses. So if you choose to take that trade, well and good, but at least you know the risk that's involved. For guys who are new to trading, then at least you know which trade and which option you should be taking. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So I guess we can look at the indices and the commodities now. There's only one change. Gold has joined the sell side of things. So all of them are on the same side. So we're going to be starting off with the NAS 100 to see what's going on there and what happened yesterday. So the NAS 100 yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out. For as long as we're holding beneath there, we knew that the game plan was to look for selling opportunities. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting a pullback to come back in within this region and hopefully get some sells or maybe all the way up within there, which was a bit of a long shot. So you can see that the market tapped within there and then started its journey coming down. And you can see that it's making a very good sequence of lower lows and lower highs and respecting SNR, which is good. So as long as we're holding beneath this region to the downside and the red SNR, the buyer still remains that we should be looking for selling opportunities. So let's see if we will get some pullbacks coming in. So in the morning, price had broken this region to the downside, or it was breaking this region to the downside when we're looking at this particular chart with the team. So we're expecting to possibly see if we could get the market holding beneath this region to the downside for us to look for sales. And right now, if you look at what's going on, it seems like the market has done some sort of a probe within this region. So there's a possibility either the market could bounce off this region to the upside, and maybe we could get the pullback coming back in within here. And if that happens, that's okay, because at least we could get the sales off that region there. But if the market breaks to the downside of this region, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we could get a pullback coming back in within this region. The only problem with this trade will be the fact that the next problem area is not too far away, which means that even if you will be targeting for areas much lower, you'll definitely have to watch out for this region somewhere within this area. So I'm not saying don't look for the sales, but just be a bit careful in terms of how you go about this one. But I think the best option, if the market can at least come back up somewhere as close as possible within this region, I think the best sales are definitely somewhere within this area right here. So let's wait and see what happens. But also remember, price can also come back all the way to within there. I mean, if that happens, we're still looking for sales. It's only when the market breaks and holds above the red SNR to the upside that our bias is going to shift, which means that if you're going to be looking for buys, just be well aware that the buying opportunities that you're looking for are counters. Up until the market breaks the red SNR to the upside, then at least now it's confirmed that the buyers are now fully in control and you could potentially find the market moving up. So moving on into the next one, this is the US 30, which is the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday and today we're watching out for sales. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out right there. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting the market to pull back, which did not happen. And the other option was the market to break beneath this region to the downside and maybe hold before we look for the sales. The market broke, even came down a bit lower, attempted to come back up within this region. Fortunately, just came shy of that area, but I guess there was an SNR somewhere within there that the market just tapped, and you can see the reaction of the sellers, coming down. The buyers attempted to retaliate. Price came back in within the same region, and you still can't see that the sellers pretty much shut them down. So for this one, for today, these are the three watching out for. So for as long as we're holding beneath this red SNR, the bus is still to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So watch out for that. Right now, we're back within a region of support, and you can see that the bars are starting to react, and hopefully they do react and they push the market back in somewhere as close as possible within this region here. If that happens, hopefully during the US session, and the non-farm payroll is happening, if price is somewhere as close as possible within here, potentially you could get some very, very good selling opportunities. So just make sure you watch out for that, but also watch out for the red SNR at the top. I mean, you could find price coming back in all the way till within that region. If it does, and we get a good price action signal at the top, a good sign of the sellers showing up, then we could potentially still get some very, very good selling opportunities. So moving on into the second last thing that we look at, which is silver. So for silver, yesterday and today, we're watching out for sales. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out yesterday. So yesterday, for as long as we're holding beneath here, the bar was to look for sales. We wanted to see either the pullback come back in within here, or maybe the market tap back in within this area for us to look for the sales. Unfortunately, you can see that the market didn't quite pull back in within here. It just held within there and started its journey, coming down. There was a pullback that came in much later on, tapped within that region. And you can see this was during the US session. You can see that price has continued to rally down lower. So for this one, we've adjusted the levels, of course, based on what the story of price is telling us. So for as long as we're holding beneath that red SNR to the downside, the bars is still to look for selling opportunities. It's only if the market breaks above this red SNR and holds above it that we'll start to look for buys confidently. So if you're going to be looking for buys now, it's okay, but just be well aware that those buys are counters. So right now we're within a region of support. So we will be waiting to see what type of reaction we can potentially end up getting. And I'm hopefully wishing that we do get a reaction of the buyers within this region. And at least if price can come back in somewhere within here, I think we could get some very, very good selling opportunities. But if that doesn't happen and the market breaks to the downside of this region, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we can get the next best option, which is going to be when the market pulls back in within this particular region right here. So let's see what happens. But in terms of sales right now, it's a bit of a risk. In fact, just going back to silver real quick, I think if we look at it on the daily, I think it must be back within a buyer's region. Yeah, you can see that back within this area right here, the buyers have reacted off there before. You could find a reaction of the buyers, but at least if the market breaks and holds beneath this region to the downside, there's still a lot of range and room for the market to actually move to the downside. So just be well aware that we're within a major SNR, and at least if we get the sales far away from there, we could manage them, or at least if the market breaks and holds beneath this region to the downside, then at least we could keep up with the sales. So just make sure that you factor that into your trading. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, yesterday, the bias was to try see whether we could get some buying opportunities. But of course, that bias was based on the fact that we're holding above this level right here, which was where the red SNR was. So for as long as we're holding above there, we knew that we were to look for buying opportunities if we got the opportunity. So price was here. We're expecting maybe the market to break above here to the upside. That didn't happen. Price came down lower. Unfortunately, there was nothing for the buyers to do. And you can see that the market really broke to the downside. And once that happened and the market really moved to the downside, at that point in time, we did end up switching our buyers to start looking for selling opportunities. So you can see that the buyers came up quite aggressively, tapped within this region right here. but the sellers have more or less still been able to contain the buyers. So we will still be looking to see whether we can get some selling opportunities, but for as long as we're holding beneath this region to the downside. If the market comes up, breaks this area to the upside and actually holds above that area, and we get confirmation that the market is actually holding above that region to the upside, then we'll be back into buyers. But right now, the buyers is to try to see whether we could get sells. It's also not very surprising, considering the fact that gold has actually been moving up, for a significant amount of time. Maybe it's just about time, that the pullback also starts to happen. So you can see that even going to the 4-hour time frame, the market has been going up for quite a significant amount of time. The pullback came in, definitely stopped out a lot of people based on what happened yesterday, but you can see that the market tapped back in within a buyer's region. But I guess on the short term, we'll be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So if the market breaks this region to the downside, and we get the market potentially holding, then we could potentially strike to see whether we could get sales. So at least if we especially see a big move on the seller coming down, challenge this buyer within here, we get the buyer struggling, coming back up within this area. I think at that point in time, if you look for the sell to come down, that sell might actually be a winner. So just make sure you watch out for that. But if the market continues to hold within this region to the upside, what you could find is that maybe during the London session, price might actually be on the pullback. The buyers might attempt to come back in within this region, and you could find that maybe during the non-farm payroll, and I mean, that's going to be during the US session, 3:30, 4:30, those times, you could find that there could be a major reaction by the sellers of this region right here. So we just need to wait and see what ends up happening. I mean, based on how the markets are going to play out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But in terms of the fundamentals, so they're expecting a weaker NFP. So that could potentially mean that the USDs could end up becoming more weaker. We should be expecting gold to go up, but it's also been coming down. But it's expected considering the fact that it's also been going up for a significant amount of time. So I guess it's just the pullback that could be happening, but I guess we'll definitely have to wait and see. But weakness is expected on the USDs. That's what the analysts are projecting. I mean, the tariffs that have been put there by Trump of late, those things have really affected a lot of things. I mean, even for Kenya, we're also slapped with a 10% tariff on exports to the US, but at least ours is not too bad. There's some countries that were slapped with like 50%, like Lesotho, I think Vietnam, Sri Lanka, 47, 46%, which is quite high. And I guess that's the reason why you're finding that the whole economy, I mean, the whole world economy is more or less moving into some sort of a fear-based market. Lots of moves on the charts. So make sure that you're also careful out there as you're trading. Lots of uncertainty, but at least the good thing about it is if you play your cards right, whether things are good or bad, the Forex market will always pay you, depending on how good you are in terms of your trading and how well you can end up following your plan. So just make sure that you trade and make sure that you do watch out for your risk. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So I think we can end up looking at the chat box to see what guys are saying. So I see Paul Kiari there. Good to see you, PK. My good friend, you're saying good morning, John and Mitch. Today on the chat, especially in the afternoon, during NFP, things may go well for you or against you. The best thing is to just stay away from the chats. Not really. I wouldn't really say stay away from the chats. Okay, depending on how risk averse or how much of a risk taker you are. But the good thing about it is volatility is what makes the markets move, and volatility is what pays us. So, I mean, if the markets are going to be coming back within strategic areas and you're following your plan and you see good signs based on your entry criteria, then you shouldn't really be too afraid in terms of taking your trading opportunities. So alternatively, you could also stay away from the charts. I mean, if you've made good gains the whole week and you don't want to be giving up those gains today, you can also end up staying away from the charts. But I think if you tone down your risk, I don't really think you should really be too afraid of taking opportunities. Just tone down your risk. So let's say, for example, if you're used to taking 2% or 3%, or some of us who are risk takers, sometimes you take 5%, 8% on a trade, especially if we see a really good setup, maybe just toning that down. So maybe taking like 1%. So you don't end up being taken back to square one. Earlier this week, I pointed out, it's very easy in trading whereby you start off the week with $100 on Monday. By Wednesday, you have 500, Thursday, you're at 1,000. Then on Friday, you're back to $20. So you started the week with $100, but you ended up with $20. And that's the reason why trading is not very easy. You can end up taking a long trip to nowhere. So just tone down your risk. Basically, that's what I would say. Just watch out for your risk. But I wouldn't really say don't take opportunities if you see them. Those are the opportunities that will potentially end up paying you. But it's good to see you here, PK. So I see Ivy Wanyama there saying good morning, investors. Good morning to you too, Ivy, and hope you're well. And good to see you here. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys for being with us this week. It's been another lovely week working with you guys, and hopefully you've made some good gains on the charts this week. If you haven't, don't worry. Next week, we're going to be back at it. Keep working on your trading. Like I always say, trading is not easy. But as long as you keep working at it, definitely, one way or another, and of course, putting God first, things will definitely work out at one point in time. They say even a dead clock is correct at least 2 times in a day. So just keep working. You may be wrong a number of times, but at least you never know. That one trade that might change your trading might just be there, but you just need to keep pushing and don't give up. And of course, for guys who are really struggling with trading, you want some help. That's the reason why we're here. Feel free to visit www.afriforex.com for more sites and insights. And also feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are there. So I guess we'll see you guys on Monday. So with that, happy trading, guys, and bye for now. Also, remember to like and subscribe. That does also end up helping us out. As much as we've helped you, you can also help us out. So enjoy your weekend. Happy trading and God bless. Bye for now.